learned the necessities of Arrakis. The Bene Gesserit, of course, knew the basis of this speed. For the others, we can say that Muad'Dib learned rapidly, because his first training was in how to learn. And the first lesson of all was the basic trust that he could learn. It is shocking to find how many people do not believe they can learn, and how many more believe learning to be difficult. Muad'Dib knew that every experience carries its lesson. From The Humanity of Muad'Dib by the Princess Irulan.
Welcome to Reading Dune, a podcast where we read Dune by Frank Herbert and talk about it. If you're a Fremen or a first-time reader, this podcast is for you. My name is Caleb Pauls.
And I'm Evan Diaz.
And together, we're going to read some Dune.
Yeah, we are.
Bro, how's that intro? Sorry, for those of you just listening in now, we've changed all formats. We've had some technical difficulties getting here to Chapter 9, but we finally found a format that works. Yep. We're here. You're using StreamYard, broadcasting live at the moment to YouTube. So if you want to watch us, we're at Reading Dune on YouTube. And you can just tune in there.
We're live right now.
Right meow.
Wow.
Don't say anything you wouldn't you'd regret.
Now I'm nervous. Now I feel like I'm going to say all the worst possible things.
Well, at least we can learn, and we can learn fast.
Yeah, fair enough. Is there a way for people to know right now that we're live? Like, is you like tweeting this or something? Or is it just kind of like if you stumble upon Reading Dune on YouTube?
Well, I think as of now, we'll take it easy. And no one's probably live, so we don't have any live comments coming in. But eventually, I figure, episode 30, chapter 30 or something, will, gain more of a traction.
Interesting.
But no, I should tweet about this next time. Good job. Way to hold me accountable on keeping us up to date in the socials.
Just trying to make us podcast famous,
I mean, it's got to do your due diligence, right?
Yeah. That's the marketer in me.
I understand that. All right. So what do you think about the quote? First and foremost, I thought it was interesting that it's a new book by the Princess Irulan, the Humanity of Muad'Dib.
I didn't even notice that.
He's thumbing through his Dune book that is becoming more and more used every day.
Yeah, it's getting more and more wrinkly as we go on.
As all good books should.
Yeah, the Humanity of Muad'Dib. That's cool.
Right. Which means there is a part of him that is almost not human. Or it will be in history.
I feel so silly sometimes because you'll point something very obvious like that out and I'm like, how did I not catch that at all? I'm a smart man.
You are indeed smart. And this is as I'm reading this through the fourth or fifth time at this point, and this is stuff I'm just catching. So since we're in this format where I can just point little things out like that, I like to. Right. And I love what he's talking about, the Bene Gesserit, of course, knows the basis of the speed, right? They taught him how to learn. He's got his mentat trading as well. Mm-hmm. But I love this, how it says, his first lesson is that he could trust himself to learn. And how many times do we trust ourselves to hey, this is a hard situation, but I know I can figure this out. Right? It's that whole, I think Frank Herbert here is trying to make a jab at people. Come on, if you can learn, it's not difficult. We're just taking it one step at a time.
Right. This quote, I really liked it because people forget how to learn. And that's a huge bummer, when you're talking to somebody who has everything figured out and they know all the right stuff about everything, and it's actually you're misinformed, I don't want to say you're wrong because being right and wrong is kind of who cares, but.
Well, yeah, especially when all the variables are mixed up and there is no definite clear action, especially in this, world, there's so many different possibilities that.
Right.
It's hard to nail down what is truth.
Gosh, I'm
But
circling this whole thing because it's good juice.
it's real spicy. It's
Oh,
real spicy. Yeah. So in the last chapter, we kind of had it was more dialogue right between Jessica and Yui, and they were kind of like talking about Paul. They walked into Paul's room, and they saw him sleeping. They had a whole conversation with just right there, and then they leave, and it starts this chapter. And this chapter, we finally get some action for you, Evan.
yes. Do we ever?
It's suspense right here. So we start with Paul's laying on his bed, feigning sleep. It had been easy to palm Dr. Yui's sleeping tablet and pretend to swallow it.
Sneaky Paul.
Right? He's like, we just showed up. I'm going to go straight to studying again, set up my room, which has probably already been set up for me. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, no one's sleeping. Why should I sleep? Like, let's go party. There's so much to discover.
Right. In
Brand
his
new
room.
planet. Right. Like, he hasn't even started yet. So he's, of course, listening to Jessica and Yui. And I think, like, we really haven't seen Paul sleep at all yet. Right? He was in the beginning of the book, the Reverend Mother showed up and he was, like, listening to them. So, yeah, Paul just doesn't like to sleep.
Maybe he doesn't need to sleep.
I mean, that's some I'd wish to have. So now we go to the room, right? So Paul's attention went to his carved headboard. It was a false headboard attached to the wall, and had like controls. It had a leaping fish shaped in wood, thick brown waves. This headboard isn't from Arrakis. It didn't come with the room. He brought this one with him.
Right.
So I think, yeah, this whole room was designed with Paul in mind. Let's see. If you push one button in the fish's eye, it would make the room dispenser lamps turned on. The waves, you twisted it, controlled ventilation. So, like, the whole thing is one big keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a bookcase that stood against the wall to his left. He knew that if you swung that aside, it'd be a closet. And there's a handle on the door, was patterned after an ornithopter thrust bar. So, I mean, 15-year-old, that's pretty cool. Like, it's an ornithopter?
Yeah.
Oh, it's our first reference. It is their flying vehicle.
Oh.
So they'll be described later on, but it's kind of like a helicopter.
Oh, cool.
Right. That's, yeah. Been around for thousands of years, just their mode of transportation flying around.
Gotcha.
It was as if the whole room had been designed to entice him. The room and this planet. Like, the whole planet is his to, like, it's just, I can't imagine being 15 years old and there's just this whole new world, literally, like, beckoning you. And he's got that terrible purpose somewhere deep down that just loves it.
Yeah.
So now he's trying to think. He hasn't actually seen the planet. He probably just, got beamed down in the ship and then, like, taken straight to his room. So it's like he saw the city, saw the shield wall, but he still hasn't really seen much of it. So he thinks back to a film book that Yui had shown him. And again, this is things I'm catching for, like, the first time. It's Arrakis, His Imperial Majesty's Desert Botanical Testing Station. It was an old film book before the discovery of the spice. So how old is this book? So spice was found and then used to jump space travel again. So it was before the Butlerian Jihad, before the thinking machines tried to take over and that big thing that happened there.
Right.
Arrakis was used to test plants. They were seeing if they could change the environment of this desert planet. They're trying to terraform it. And so he's thinking in his head, like, they've tried this before. There are these testing stations. Why can't we try it again? Kind of a thing. Why is this place so horrible? Especially when he's come from a world that he's only known water and vegetation. Like, I mean, if I'm Paul, that's the first thing in my mind. Like, yo, Caladan was sweet.
Right.
Why can't we make this place like that?
Or why does this place have to be the way it is?
Right. Why is it this way?
Yeah.
I think that's like the foundational question in learning, right? He wants to know the why. How do we figure this out? What's happening? So his brain is starting to move in those directions.
It starts with that curiosity and finding a problem,
Yes. Finding a problem and then like trying to figure out where the solutions are. What do I need to uncover to really see what's going on?
Okay.
So yeah, we have the names fitted through Paul's mind. In each picture of the book, there was a mnemonic pulse, right? I don't know what that is. I'm sure his brain just remembers it. So it just names off a bunch of different stuff. There's like kit, fox, desert hawk, kangaroo, mouse. Names and pictures from man's tyrannic past and many forms now, and many to be found now nowhere else in the universe except here on Arrakis.
Right. So talking like these words are like earthly words, like words from Earth. It says man's tyrannic past. So like somewhere way back in the past, these are the same things that were on Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think that's what Frank's implying. Yeah, that these came from Earth and have somehow evolved and adapted to live on Arrakis. There's so many new things to learn about the spice and the sandworms. Sandworms don't exist on Earth. No, not that I know. I mean, maybe deep down in the ocean somewhere they do.
Right. That's what that would suck. It seems like the words that he's saying, names and pictures from a man's tyrannic past. Yeah. So like, I don't know. Maybe it was Arrakis was found a long time ago and they named everything with like Earth names.
Yeah, that could be a thing.
Or in the future that like no other planet is using that kind of nomenclature for their stuff.
I could see that.
Nomenclature, I think that
was a pretty big word.
I think it was correct, and I think it was pretty cool of me to say so.
I mean, I think reading helps your vocabulary.
Oh, indubitably.
So, parents, if you want good vocabulary to your kids, make sure you give them books to read. I'd start with Dune if they're anywhere in the age of reading Dune.
Right. And there's a whole podcast that these guys do that you can follow along and they explain everything to you. It's pretty rad.
I think it's pretty cool. If I would have watched one of these, they had one for like Romeo and Juliet, like in sophomore year of high school or something.
Oh, that would have been helpful. Anyway,
that would have been moving on. So the door closes in the other room. Paul hears his mother's footsteps. So the end of the last chapter just ends. This is where he's like, yes, it's my moment. I'm going to go for it.
Right.
So he slips out of bed, head for the bookcase door that opens into the closet because, always got to check if there's monsters in the closet first.
Right.
He stopped at the sound behind him and turned. The carved headboard of the bed was folding down into the spot where he had been sleeping. Paul froze. The moment he freezes is what saves his life. So the headboard, right? It's like it sensed his movement and then went into it.
Right.
Like it turned on.
I'm picturing like the whole headboard just goes like, like goes down, which doesn't seem like something that your headboard's supposed to be able to do. Anyway, keep going.
And from behind the headboard slipped a tiny hunter seeker, no more than 5 centimeters long. I mean, I don't know. This is what I picture. Is remember in The Matrix, and they had like the worm like robot things that was in Neo's stomach.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's kind of what I picture.
Okay, I was having a hard time understanding in my brain what the hunter seeker looks like. I read it and I thought it was something I was supposed to know, so I almost Googled it to like. But that wouldn't my like.
There's probably a picture somewhere.
Right, but. So this is mechanical.
I would say, yeah, it's mechanical in nature.
Okay.
Because we're going to see how it operates here in a little bit.
Right.
So Paul recognizes it at once, a common assassination weapon that every child of royal blood learned about at an early age. So it was ravening silver.
Ravening.
We know words indubitably.
It was silver. It was a silver metal.
Right, context clues. That's a context clues, ladies and gentlemen, is when you don't know a word, you kind of read what's around it and try to figure it out. It helps when you don't have a dictionary or Google nearby.
We're so good at this.
My English teachers would be very proud of me at this point. No joke. I might send this to them. It was a silver of metal guided by a nearby hand and eye. So it's somebody's controlling it.
Okay.
It could burrow into moving flesh and chew its way up nerve channels to the nearest vital organ. The seeker lifted, swung sideways across the room and back. It's looking. And Paul's mind flashed to the relative knowledge, the hunter-seeker's limitations. So, it's a compressed suspensor field distorted the room to reflect its target. The operator would be relying on motion, anything that moved. A shield, right? He's got a shield belt on. His dad has a shield belt. Could slow a hunter and to give it time to destroy it, but Paul would put his shield on the bed.
Right.
Because who wears a shield to bed? Especially on your first night of Arrakis.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Has a shield.
Right. So he's going through the checklist. How do you kill this thing while being completely frozen as it's scanning the room? Laser gun could knock it down, but laser guns were expensive and notoriously cranky of maintenance. So that's always nice. And there'd be a peril of explosion, pyrotechnic, because the laser being intersected a hot shield. So let's not do that. So laser guns, shields, and laser guns and body shields do not mix. We'll just put that out there. They do not mix.
Cool.
Now, Paul held himself at a near catatonic immobility, knowing he had only his wits to meet his threat. Right? There's that. What is Paul learning right now? How fast is his mind operating? Man. So, yeah, it's just a nod to Paul being able to learn and learn fast. So he thinks, I must try to...
He's going back to all this knowledge that he's just been accumulating over his whole 15 years of existence. So, like, it's literally like this thing pops up and he just starts, like, reading a book on it.
Right. And that kind of how the Bene Gesserit would teach you, too, right? So they have, like, Jessica and the missionary Protectiva, right? There are certain words that are ingrained in her brain that when operated on, like we saw with Mapes, like, things will just happen.
Right.
It's like you pull up a memory you didn't know you had, or you just start talking and it's like, oh, it's just been there, deeply implanted in your subconscious. Okay, so he says, I must try to grab it, but the suspensor field will make it slippery on the bottom, so I must grip it tightly. The thing dropped a half meter, quarter to the left, circled back around the bed, still looking. And Paul's like, who's operating this? Like, it's not going on its own, because there are no thinking machines, so it can't. You got to be an operator. Has to be someone. He goes, I should shout for Yui. But it would take him the instant the door opened. Man, he should have asked for Yui. We would have saved him a lot of problems.
Well, like, us reading it, we don't know if it's Yui controlling the thing.
True, it could be.
Because he's the only person that we know is close enough to be operating it.
Yeah. Yeah, that we know of. And we know because of Piter's plan, we need an assassination on Paul.
Right. So
this is that, it's that assassination. So the hall door behind Paul creaked. A rap sounded there. The door opened. The hunter-seeker arrowed past his head towards the motion. Paul's right hand shot out and down, grabbing the deadly thing. It hummed, twisted in his hand, but his muscles were locked on it in desperation. With a violent turn and thrust, he slammed the thing's nose down the metal door plate. He felt a crunch of it as the nose eye smashed and the seeker went dead in his hand.
See,
boom.
That is intense, you know. That also, that language there is why I thought maybe it's like a living thing, because he's talking about eyes and nose and it fell dead in his hand. But I guess it's just, I don't know, this is like how this works. If you smash the business end of it, it's gonna die.
Right. And yeah, all the parts will go away and yeah, it'll just be smashed. But yeah, talk about like some quick reflexes, tense moment.
Dude, and it's like he's made for this. Like he has been bred for this exact type of encounter his whole life.
Yes.
Because they learn about these things when they're little kids.
They have to.
Right.
They have to know what may or may not happen. So yeah, and of course, with the way houses all work, of course, there's going to be assassination attempts because they don't do full-on wars, except for what's about to happen very often. So you have to like
What?
Well, part of the plan is to start a card and then the Harkonnen are going to come down. I was like, man, did I give a spoiler away too soon? Oh no, we know they're going to attack. Okay,
for sure.
All right, so he stopped it. He killed it. Who's at the door?
Good old matey poo.
The Shadout Mapes, right? He meets eye to eye with a total blue that he's only seen in his dreams before. Total blue of Shadout Mapes. Like, hey, are you the girl from my dream? No, not quite.
Slim Shadout.
And she's just so matter of fact, your father has sent for you, she said. And there are men in the hall to escort you.
The voice, though. Now I can't unhear. Hi, my name is. Huh?
The Shadout Mapes. All right, so Paul's like, what is happening? Who are you, and what did you do with Yui? Like, I can't imagine what's happening in his head. So Shadout Mapes kind of looks at the thing in his hand and is like, that would have killed me, wouldn't it? Like, you didn't grab that? I was toasted. And then Paul's like, no, like I was the target. Like, still, who are you? And Mapes was like, it was coming for me, because you were moving. And then he was like, but more than anything, I think Paul was like, what is happening and who is this little person in front of me?
Yes. Why am I talking to, who is this? What is happening?
I was just faking sleep and now I'm awake, and who are you? She goes, then you saved my life. And Paul was like, yeah, I saved both of our lives. Like, it's no big deal. And so he's finally like, who are you, right? And she goes, I'm the Shadout Mapes, the housekeeper. How did you know where to find me? Your mother told me. I met her at the stairs to the weirding room down the hall. The weirding room. Your father's men are still waiting. And so then we see it's Howard's men. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, that's Howard's men are down there. Yeah, it's gonna be good. And he doesn't care anymore. He was like, yeah, they sent for me. I'm on my mission. So he tells Mapes, like, go to my father's men. Tell them I caught a hunter seeker in the house. And they're to spread out and find the operator. Tell them to seal off the house and the grounds immediately. They'll know how to go about it. The operator is sure to be a stranger among us. No Atreides would do this. This has got to be a Harkonnen agent. This has got to be somebody's paid off. Of course, he wonders, could it be Mapes? Is this Mapes' person? But he knew it wasn't. The secret had been under the control when she entered. And so Mapes has to Jessica should have killed her, right? But didn't. So she's like, oh man, we have a water debt. Please take some of my water. Now Paul's saved her. So, oh no. Like, I feel like Mapes just going around just almost dying, giving away, having just water debts. Like, oh, help me.
Right. I still can't tell if she's just like a wacky old lady that's kind of like delusional and weird, or if she's got some crazy mystical prophetic something going on.
I mean, I think those two it's a fine line.
Right. Fair enough.
I mean, if we're looking at all the stories, it's a very fine line. Is she good or bad? I don't know if there's a good or bad at this point. But what? So she goes, before I do your bidding, manling, Mape said, I must cleanse the way between us. You put a water burden on me, and I'm not sure I care to support. But we Fremen pay our debts, be they black debts or white debts. It is known to us that you have a traitor in your midst. Who it is, we cannot say. We're sure of it. Mayhap there's a hand guided that flesh cutter, right? She's like, maybe the traitor did that, but yeah, there's definitely a traitor.
Right.
Paul absorbed in the silence. A traitor. Before he could speak, right, Mapes turned around went back. She had a mission. He thought to call out to her, but he couldn't do that because she was already going to do his bidding. Like that was already like, wait, what?
Right.
The house would be swarming with Howit's men, doing exactly what he said. His mind went to the other parts of the strange conversation. Right. So there's 3 weird things that happen here. Right. There's the weirding room. To which we don't know what's happening there.
Never heard of a weirding room.
Well, yeah, that's weird. She said, "We Fremen," so that's his first Fremen. He paused for the mnemonic blink that would store the pattern of her face in the memory. Prune wrinkled, features darkly brown, blue and blue eyes without any white in them. He attached the label, "The Shadout Mapes." So that's his Mentat brain going. Just sort, file, put it in there.
He's like, command save, shoutoutmates.jpg.
Yeah, put in their Fremen. First Fremen.
Under Fremen.
So he's still holding on to the hunter seeker. Paul turned back into the room, scooped up his shield belt, right? Because now you don't want to leave without one.
Right.
Especially after
get off.
Right. You had an assassination attempt. And then she said his mother was someplace down where? Stairs. A weirding room. Like he's going to go explore. He's going to go find this weird room.
Right.
And that ends chapter 9. That was like, this whole chapter was probably like 5 minutes long, if that.
Right. It was super short.
And just that one moment.
Right. For the audience, like I'm reading these chapters right before we record these episodes. And so I was like, all right, yeah, Caleb, give me a little while to read. And then I read it. I was like, oh, I'm done. You're starting early? Like, what do you think? But it was really short, but there was so much in it. You know?
Yeah.
And you've been saying this whole time, like once we hit action, we're gonna hit action hard. And that was pretty intense for the first action scene.
So we're good for another like 4 or 5 chapters of conversation.
Perfect. Love this book.
It's some exposition and then huge action sequence. So we go through Piter's plan, right? It's there'll be several diversions on Arakeen, and I think that's happening. An attempt on Paul's life. So next, Habit will be convinced there's an agent. We know there's an agent. Shadout Mapes who says there's a traitor, and of course, Paul will probably tell people down the line there's a traitor.
Right.
So the next one is how it will suspect it's the Lady Jessica.
Oh.
So in these next chapters, we are going to see how does Piter do that.
Right. But, okay. But like Paul heard Lady Jessica leaving.
Yeah, Paul knows it's not her.
He's smart and like Mentat and Bene Gesserit enough to know that like, no, she actually left the room. It wasn't some kind of tricky nonsense.
No, yeah. The only person that Piter needs to believe it's Jessica is Howit, is Thufir.
Yeah. And I guess Paul's a kid, so he's not just going to like take his word for it.
Right. I mean, yeah, no one's going to listen to Paul at this point. Like, he's 15. All orders going to come from the top.
Boo.
Day 2 on Arrakis. Plan is happening in place. And that leaves us here at chapter 9. Any other questions you have there, Evan? Reading it for the first time?
No, I think that's it. I mean, okay, there's a couple things sticking out at me from this chapter. The quote at the beginning.
How to learn. That's just like important. I'm going to read that like a couple more times before going to bed just to like actually get my brain around it, because there's something really, really juicy in that quote. Shadout Mapes
intrigues me right now. I can't tell if she's a Jar Jar Binks type character or if she's like a Yoda type character, and I have no idea what's coming. So,
Yes, she's definitely that guide figure, though.
right. But like the Jar Jar Binks type, like, no one wants that.
Right. But the negative aspect of all of the guide characteristics.
Goofy, like, hey, man, here I am. That's Shadout Mapes. I think your voice is throwing me off because
I mean, it's a small little woman. So, I mean.
Right, but she sounds like she's from Sesame Street. She doesn't.
Don't make fun of my voice acting, okay?
All right, we'll just.
I have no formal training.
Just try to make it better.
I'll do my best.
We shout out Mapes' lines or something.
I think that would be a great idea.
Hey,
all right.
Let us know if you want us to switch voice acting.
Please, you can do that by just going to Reading Dune, our Twitter, and email us at readingdune@gmail.com. And per Evan's request, I'm going to tweet out right before we go live.
Yes.
So maybe like 30 minutes before, so y'all can hop on and see us when we're doing that. So do a follow, do the things you do. Thank you for listening very much.
For sure. Thank you.
And remember to keep it spicy.
Oh, definitely stay spicy.